Hey there, thanks for joining us at the Rabbit Hole of Research, where you'll learn a few facts that you can impress your friends with at a party. Hey, welcome back to the Rabbit Hole of Research. Hanging out down here in the basement studio. You have me, Joe. We've got Georgia.
You got Nick.
And we've got Nick.
Hello.
This is the mini episode to the Noir. We have Proto-Noir, Neo-Noir, and we got
I've never heard of Mini-Noir before, but
Mini-Noir.
here we are.
George is going to yell at us for this one.
I know. Yeah, so we're coming up. The show, Touch of Noir, the art show with Georgia and Jim Sergey, who was our guest for the episode, February 28th at the Promise You Art House in Highland, Indiana. So that's coming up Friday.
The opening is Friday, and I hope people come out. And we were talking about maybe doing a little after party, maybe fuzzy line.
Yeah.
If that encourages you to come out.
Or just your fans of the rabbit hole of research.
And
want to learn more about Noir?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. A few things from the episode that I wanted to touch on. One was the parental testing. It came up when we were talking about Chinatown. Do you guys remember Chinatown?
Yes.
And the ancestral twists that kind of happened. And I was like, oh, they could have done testing. And I mentioned, I think DNA testing was in there. And I wanted to clarify that DNA testing wouldn't have been the means that have done parental testing.
And by parental testing, you mean testing to see who is the parents.
Who's the dad generally.
Oh, okay. You
usually,
can't tell who's the mom?
Oh, you can, but usually the mom gives birth.
Mom
hard to get out of that one.
Pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Although, no.
There's been changes in birth. Like,
I don't think so.
But I saw an
I
article.
watched The Omen before.
No, I saw an article.
I'm
I
still
didn't
the
mean
dad. I think the mom was.
I think I cut you off, and I'm sorry. But I just recently I read an article, and I can't tell you where, but a woman that kept not testing as the mom of her own kids. She gave birth.
Yeah.
But then when they did the testing, she didn't show as their mom genetically. I don't know. I'm going to have to look for that and put it in the show. But it was like this mystery because obviously she's the mom. She gave birth.
Yeah, right.
But
genetically.
Wait.
There was
Why
some
can't
difference.
you tell us your sources?
No,
I know, right,
I'm not hiding sources. I'm just.
What is that? The Inquirer? The Inquirer?
No, I don't think so. I think it might have even been NPR. But when you said that, I just recently read that. Okay, so please go on. The test to see who the parent is.
So I mean, this has obviously been something through history trying to identify a paternity. In the 1920s, there was all sorts of crazy things. But 1920s, and that's I mentioned that year in the show, but that was actually Dr. Albert Abrams. He invented the oscillophore. And it was a device that would measure electronic vibrations in blood to determine paternity.
And how did that work out?
Not very well. It wasn't very good. So
Hollywood's still using that.
No, we don't do that.
That was never on a Jerry Springer show.
That's how far they were trying to test anything to come up with it. But really, it was in the 30s, the first reliable scientific basis for paternity testing. And that was using blood types. And people know there's 4 blood types, A, B, and O. And what you can do is there's some rules with it. For example, if a baby has type AB blood and his mother is type A blood, then the father must have B or AB blood. You can imagine, though, that this leaves a lot of room for people because there's only 4 types. The odds are that there could be some mistakes still in this form of parental testing, but it was the first real scientific parental testing. And actually, it was famous in 1940s with Charlie Chaplin. Was Charlie Chaplin in any noir movies? I don't know.
No.
Not.
I don't think so. He was in this.
George, you're supposed to know that one.
No, I don't think anything that he made was noir, but there is this very dark movie, but it still have comedic elements, but it's dark. Monsieur Verdoux. Do you remember watching that one, Joe? Where he kept killing all these women. Like his wife had some horrible disease and he needed to pay for this medicine. Isn't that always the thing that happens? But he ends up killing all these really wealthy women and getting their money. They think he's in love with them. And anyway, it's actually has these hilarious scenes in it.
All right.
But I don't think that would quite count as the noir.
Charlie Chaplin in the 40s, he was in a paternity suit. Joan Barry, who was 23 and Chaplin was 54, alleged that he was the father of her newborn baby, Carol. And this was really a high-profile case, and they used blood group testing in this suit. And the results came in and conclusively showed that Chaplin cannot be the father of Carol Ann. But the jury, composed of 11 women and 1 man, still found that Chaplin was indeed Carol Ann's father. And they said if not biologically, then by the merit of his close relationship with the mother, and also his history of marrying young women and quickly discarding them for much younger women. So he had this kind of pattern of behavior. And even though the science said he wasn't the father, they still said, you're the father. So that kind of brought into what his fatherhood means.
Was he Brad Pitt?
He was. He was pretty hot.
So yeah, it wasn't until the 80s that you had accurate DNA testing come about. And that's now what's used now, definitive testing there. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that a little bit.
Touch of noir.
A touch of noir, a touch of paternity testing. So potentially they could have used some blood typing in Chinatown, but they didn't do that.
Yeah, because Chinatown was set in
the 70s.
No, it was made in the 70s. I think it was set in the 40s.
Oh, was it set in the 40s? I thought it was the same time period. Okay, so
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's something I need to look up.
Right, I know. You need to have that for Friday when people ask you to be like, when was Chinatown? It's going to be like noir trivia.
Anyway.
Another thing I wanted to bring up was Jim Sergey, our guest. He had questions about some science in a movie called Decoy from 1946. It was about a dying female gangster that tells how she revived an executed killer from a gas chamber to find out where he hid a stolen fortune. So it sounds very noir. But the man is revived using methylene blue. And I found that really fascinating because methylene blue, usually it's used for dye of textiles and paper. And I was familiar with methylene blue for its properties in microscopy. You can use it as a stain to visualize cells and tissues. But as I dug a little further...
And that's what you do?
I do. I am a microscopist, an electron microscopist, if I ever mentioned that. But it has medicinal uses that dates back to the 1800s and still is FDA approved. Some of his treatments were for malaria. It's used for cyanide and carbon monoxide poisoning. It has some neuroprotection. There's like studies now coming out that it could protect you from damage caused by strokes or other brain traumas or other conditions. And there is some evidence that it could be used for life-threatening conditions, for helping to revive patients. So it does have
so
these.
she should maybe have some of that on
these
hand.
Maybe should have some on hand. But yeah,
is that
and some of the recent papers are like that. I think it was used like during COVID because of these respiratory protections. There's papers like, use methylene blue to help treat people that are in respiratory distress, especially apnea and things like that, where oxygen uptake.
Is that in
pretty fascinating?
The Country Wisdom book?
I don't think so. It might be in a survival guide that Nick got me recently. But yeah, so I thought that was interesting that there was some science there, and we were talking about forensics and stuff, and Jim had brought that up, and I dug into it a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah, and I want to just add that the 1974 film Chinatown is set in Los Angeles in 1937.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He wears his fedora.
Right.
It really is the traditional hard-boiled detective.
Yeah. So 1937, then, blood typing for parental tracing was fairly new.
So it probably wouldn't have come in. Yeah.
Interesting.
And that kind of brings up the whole point of noir being traditionally in this very specific time period. Even if it's made now. They recently made Marlowe, which I haven't seen last year, I want to say, but I heard that the reviews were not great, but it's just interesting.
It's probably easier too because you don't have the technology and things like that. So we had Alex from YouTube made some comments.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you.
Yeah.
That was a lot of support.
Yeah, definitely. Always. Thank you. But they had mentioned and asked a question, is Daredevil considered a noir? And so that was an interesting one that I thought. Yeah,
Right.
It has the elements to it.
I do
and-
think that there's definitely those elements, especially dealing with morality
Right. Yeah.
and seeing those dark sides to yourself.
The only thing is that usually, I guess sometimes they have the femme fatale character, right? In the episode, we said that had to be one of the defining characters.
Yeah, I
in
don't know
truth.
if we said that definitively, but
Okay.
it does seem, yeah.
And the only other thing I had was I don't think we touched on noir in video games. Did we? I don't. And one that
I think we touched on it a little bit.
a little bit. Yeah, one I thought of was Rise of the Dragon. It was a 1990s PC game that I used to play, and it was inspired by noir. It had that kind
Right.
of themes.
There's the one, I don't know if I can't remember if we talked about it on the episode, but Nick, that one that I really want to try.
LA
Was it-
Noir.
Yeah, is it called
Yeah,
LA
LA Noir,
Noir?
yeah. That's what
Yeah.
That's one we talked about, I think, in
Yeah.
the episode. That's what I had for cleaning up the noir episode.
I've just been like noir every day, all day for the last couple months.
All the time.
But I'm still not tired of it. Like I told Jim, I want to make 100 more art pieces based on noir films, but who has that kind of time?
I don't know.
You don't have that kind of time, Georgia? What
I
are you
don't-
talking about?
I know. I need to just quit my
Aren't you
job.
crafting something right now?
Yeah.
It's happening right now. Yeah, cool. So, how about anything? Nick, you got anything?
I did start a new game recently that is in the noir. It says noir. I don't know. I'm guessing it's noir. It's called Pales Noir. And it seems pretty cool so far.
Cool.
I'll give you updates when I get further
Yeah,
in the
definitely.
game. But it is still something that is being brought up into culture and
Mm-hmm.
it
Is
is
that,
still being
Yep.
do you think that's something that you noticed because it had the word noir, or just a coincidence? Or
It's by a developer I like, so I checked
oh,
it
okay.
out.
So it's just a happy coincidence.
But yeah, it came out in 2021.
Okay, that's still pretty
That
recent.
is pretty recent, but
That's what, 4 years old now?
Yeah.
Which is weird to think that 2021 was 4 years ago.
Yeah, that's
That's it,
really
yeah.
hard to believe.
time keeps on ticking into the future. Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah. Cool. So, I think that's all we had for this little mini noir episode.
Come out on Friday,
Come out on Friday, the 28th of February,
right?
to the Promise You Art House in Highland, Indiana. We'll put that in the show notes.
Right.
So it starts
There,
at what?
you might even get some really tasty candies.
Tasty candy cigarettes, like in our group photo. That was, you saw the picture of us. We did that.
Georgia, I can't believe you lied to them.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I don't want to give a spoiler.
Maybe some music, I think, or maybe some movies.
I think there'll be
showing.
some jazz
Yeah.
music, maybe some
Yeah.
noir clips. And of course, Jim and I will be there.
Be there taking all the trivia questions.
We can try to figure
You
out,
gotta
yeah, which movie
do
should
what
we.
I always do, try to stump them.
What's the
It's not hard.
oscillophore?
Noir?
It's not hard.
What
Cool.
about this one? Is this a noir?
Is this a noir? Yes. We'll keep
I
asking.
think I'm really excited because I think Nick is writing a noir right now as we speak.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
I know.
I'm
You
real-
gotta bleep that out. You gotta bleep it out, Joe.
I know.
Just go, and Nick is writing, and then bleep out everything else.
Sorry. I didn't give anything away.
Yeah.
And that was no spoiler.
No spoilers. Less than 20 years old. No spoilers. Cool. You have me, Joe, here. We've got Georgia.
You got Nick,
We got Nick.
and we went down mini noir.
It was very dark.
Medium dark. Full. Y'all stay smoky out there.